Reason 1. They sense you fear conflict. Some people can smell fear. Not the kind you feel when you're in danger, but the fear of confrontation. They sense when you hesitate to speak up, when you laugh off things that hurt, when you say, "It's okay," even though it's not. You see, most boundary pushers don't start by attacking you. They test you quietly. They give you a small insult and watch what you do. They ask for a favor they shouldn't, and they wait. If you give in, if you stay silent, they learn something powerful, that you fear conflict more than you value your peace. And once they learn that, they keep pushing. Because to them, silence means permission, and politeness means weakness. But here's what most people don't understand. You don't avoid conflict because you're weak. You avoid it because you crave peace. Because you've seen how ugly conflict can become. Because you've learned that sometimes walking away feels easier than standing up. But there's a difference between peace and appeasement. Peace comes from strength. Appeasement comes from fear. When you fear conflict, you give people unspoken permission to rewrite your boundaries. You teach them how to treat you, not with your words, but with your silence. Imagine someone borrowing money from you. They promise to pay it back in a week. A month passes. You don't remind them because you don't want to sound pushy. Now they think it's optional. And the next time, they'll borrow more, with even less guilt. That's how it happens. Bit by bit, line by line, they move the boundary until you barely recognize yourself. And then one day, you explode. You finally say, "Enough!" But by then, the damage is already done. So, how do you stop it? You don't have to become loud or aggressive. You just have to become clear. Start small. When something bothers you, speak up, immediately, calmly, and firmly. Say, "I'm not okay with that." You don't owe them a full explanation. Your discomfort is reason enough. At first, they'll act surprised. They'll say, "Wow, you've changed." That's fine. Because yes, you have changed. You're done letting people rewrite your peace to protect their comfort. You'll notice something fascinating. When you stop fearing conflict, people stop trying to create it. Because bullies, manipulators, and chronic boundary pushers all feed on the same thing: your hesitation. When they realize they can't guilt you, pressure you, or silence you anymore, they lose interest. You stop being an easy target. That's the moment you reclaim your power, not by fighting everyone, but by making it clear that your kindness is a choice, not a weakness. Reason number 2. They've learned you always forgive. People push your limits when they believe there are no real consequences. And nothing erases consequences faster than forgiveness. Now, forgiveness in itself is powerful. It's healing. It means you refuse to carry hate in your heart. But forgiveness without boundaries, that's a recipe for emotional exhaustion. Some people don't see your forgiveness as strength. They see it as a reset button. They hurt you, they apologize, you forgive them, and then they do it again. Why? Because they've learned you'll always forgive. They've studied your compassion. They know your heart bleeds easily. They know you value connection more than confrontation. So they weaponize your empathy. Let me give you a picture. Imagine a friend who keeps canceling on you at the last minute. You rearrange your schedule, you forgive them, every time. At first, they feel guilty, but over time, the guilt fades. They stop seeing it as a disrespect. They start seeing it as normal. Because your forgiveness trained them that their behavior is acceptable. You don't mean to. You just want peace. But your silence becomes permission. Here's the truth. You can forgive someone in your heart and still not allow them back into your space. You can love them and still say, "I can't let this continue." Forgiveness doesn't mean access. It means release. When you forgive someone, you free yourself, not them. You stop letting the wound control you. But if you keep letting the same person reopen that wound, that's not forgiveness anymore. That's self-abandonment. So what's the solution? When you forgive someone, match it with change. Don't just say, I forgive you. Say, I forgive you, but things will be different from now on. And mean it. If they truly value you, they'll respect the new boundaries. If they don't, they'll leave. Either way, you win. Because peace isn't about keeping everyone close. It's about keeping yourself intact. You don't have to stop forgiving. You just have to stop forgetting what the lesson was meant to teach you. Every time someone crosses your line and you let it slide, you train them how far they can go next time. But the moment you stand firm, calmly, quietly, you reset the entire dynamic. People will push your limits as long as you keep resetting their consequences. The day you stop doing that, they stop pushing. Because they finally realize something powerful. Your forgiveness is not a weakness. It's a gift. And not everyone deserves it twice.
Reason number 3, they're testing your self-worth. Every relationship you have, romantic, family, friendship, work, runs on one silent rule. People will treat you at the level you treat yourself. That means if you see yourself as unworthy, they'll see you the same way. If you tolerate disrespect, they'll assume you deserve it. If you doubt your value, they'll start doubting it too. And this is exactly why some people push your limits. They're not just testing your patience, they're testing your self-worth. See, most boundary pushers aren't consciously thinking, let me disrespect this person. It's deeper than that. They're trying to figure out what kind of person you are. They want to know how much you'll tolerate. They want to see what it takes to make you question yourself. Because when they can make you doubt your worth, they can control you. Let me explain it this way. Imagine you're in a relationship, romantic or otherwise, and you start expressing your needs. You say, I don't like when you speak to me that way. If the person responds with, you're too sensitive or you're overreacting, what they're really saying is, I want you to doubt your perception so I can keep doing what I want. That's emotional control disguised as feedback. It's subtle, it's quiet, but it's powerful. And over time, you start thinking, maybe I am overreacting. Maybe my standards are too high. Maybe my feelings are too much. That's how they get you, not by breaking your boundaries, but by breaking your belief that you deserve to have them in the first place. So, here's the truth. Every time you accept less than you deserve, you teach the world what normal looks like for you. If you accept disrespect, that becomes your new normal. If you accept inconsistency, that becomes the pattern. But the moment you decide, truly decide, that you deserve better, everything changes. Because once you know your worth, you stop negotiating your value. You stop explaining why something bothers you. You stop defending your boundaries. You stop chasing validation from people who benefit from your doubt. When someone tests your self-worth, you don't fight them. You just show them what self-respect looks like in silence. You don't argue. You don't prove. You don't plead. You simply stop allowing their behavior in your life. That's when people start noticing. They feel it, the shift. They can't manipulate you anymore because your confidence is no longer up for debate. And the moment you stop looking for approval, you become unpredictable. That's power. Listen, you don't need to be the loudest person in the room. You don't need to explain your boundaries like a lawyer. You just need to believe that your peace of mind is worth protecting. People will always test you until they realize you won't bend. Not because you're cold or cruel, but because you finally understand what you're worth. And once you do, No one can take that from you again.
Reason number 4. They want control, not connection. Sometimes people don't want a relationship. They want control that looks like one. They want to know they can influence your emotions, that they can say or do something and watch you react. It gives them a sense of power. To them, it's not about mutual respect. It's about dominance, emotional, mental, or even social. That's why they test your limits. They're not testing your patience. They're testing their power. And it starts subtly. They ask questions not to understand, but to analyze. They joke about your insecurities. They push buttons just to see what happens. If you react, if you defend, explain, cry, or argue, they feel in control. Because in that moment, they've proven they can pull your emotional strings. It's not always malicious. Sometimes it's learned behavior. People who grew up feeling powerless often seek control in adulthood, not because they want to hurt you, but because they don't know another way to feel safe. But that doesn't mean you have to tolerate it. Because whether they're doing it out of malice or insecurity, the effect is the same. You end up drained, anxious, constantly walking on eggshells. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're in a conversation with someone who keeps interrupting you, dismissing your opinions, or turning everything into a competition. You try to explain your side, hoping they'll finally understand. But they don't want understanding. They want control of the conversation. So, the more you explain, the more they win, because they've succeeded in making you chase clarity from someone who thrives on confusion. That's how emotional control works. It convinces you that the only way to feel peace is by getting their approval, but that peace never comes. So how do you stop it? You stop feeding the cycle. You stop reacting to every provocation. You stop trying to prove your intentions. You stop explaining yourself to people who twist your words anyway. Instead, you start observing. You watch their behavior like a mirror, detached, calm, unbothered. You stop giving them the emotional reaction they crave, and something incredible happens. They lose interest. Because control only works when you respond. Silence and indifference are emotional armor. When they realize they can't manipulate your peace anymore, they start to unravel. You see, true connection doesn't require control. It's built on trust, respect, and balance. But people who seek control aren't looking for connection. They're looking for confirmation that they matter, that they're powerful, that they can still shape someone else's reality. Don't give them that power. Your emotional balance is not a toy for other people's insecurity. Your calm is not up for negotiation. When you stop reacting, when you stop explaining, when you stop trying to make them see what they did wrong, you take your power back. And that power, quiet, grounded, immovable, that's what true strength looks like. Because the moment you choose peace over proving yourself, you stop being someone's puppet, and you start becoming the master of your own energy.
Reason number 5. They mistake your kindness for weakness. There's a saying that goes, "Don't mistake my kindness for weakness." But people do it every day. They see your calm and assume you're afraid. They see your empathy and assume you're easy. They see your silence and assume you're powerless. What they don't understand is that kindness takes strength. It takes power to stay gentle in a world that keeps trying to make you hard. It takes courage to keep caring when you've been disappointed over and over again. But not everyone can see that strength. Some people only see opportunity. They see that you're understanding, that you're patient, that you try to see the best in people. And instead of valuing that, they exploit it. They push your limits because they assume you won't fight back, because they think kindness means compliance, because they believe you'll always give them one more chance. And the saddest part? They don't even realize what they're losing. Because the moment a kind person decides they're done, truly done,
they never go back. The same heart that once forgave everything becomes a heart that forgets you exist, not out of hate, but out of peace. That's the paradox of kindness. It's strong enough to forgive, but wise enough to walk away. Let's be honest. You've probably been told to stop being so nice. People say it like it's a flaw. But being kind isn't the problem. The problem is giving kindness to people who haven't earned it. Kindness without boundaries is self-destruction in slow motion. When you give and give and give, hoping they'll finally respect you, you're teaching them the opposite, that they can keep taking. Because you won't stop them. It's not that you don't know your worth. It's that you keep believing they'll eventually see it. But some people won't. Not because you're not valuable, but because they benefit from pretending you're not. So here's the truth. You don't need to stop being kind. You just need to be discerning with it. Your kindness should be a reward, not a default setting. You can love people and still say no. You can help others and still protect your peace. You can be understanding and still have limits. When someone tries to take advantage of your good heart, don't become cold, become clear. Say, I care about you, but I won't allow this. Say it once, say it calmly, and mean it. You don't have to shout. You don't have to explain. Your calm boundary is louder than any argument. Eventually, people start to realize you weren't weak, you were merciful. You aren't naive, you were giving them the chance to grow. And when they pushed you too far, they didn't just lose access to your time, they lost access to your light. So don't stop being kind. Just don't be kind to people who confuse kindness with submission. Because true kindness, real kindness, includes protecting yourself too.
Reason number 6. They're projecting their own insecurities. One of the hardest truths to accept is this. Sometimes people push your limits not because of something wrong with you, but because of something broken inside them. When someone feels small, they try to make others feel smaller. When someone feels powerless, they reach for control. When someone feels unseen, they start to provoke reactions, because even your anger is better to them than your indifference. This is called projection. It's when people take their own fears, guilt, or insecurities and place them on you. They accuse you of things they secretly feel. They judge you for qualities they wish they had. They criticize what they envy. It's a defense mechanism, a way for them to avoid facing themselves. Let me give you an example. Have you ever met someone who constantly calls you too sensitive, yet they explode over the smallest things? Or someone who tells you you think you're better than everyone else, but deep down, they're the ones who feel inferior. That's projection. They're not describing you, they're revealing themselves. And when you don't understand that, you start internalizing their words. You start wondering, maybe I am too emotional. Maybe I do expect too much. But the truth is, you've just become the mirror for someone who can't stand their own reflection. So what do? They push. They test your patience. They pick at your flaws. They stir up conflict because your discomfort distracts them from their own. They want you to absorb the chaos they can't control within themselves. They unload it onto you so they can walk away feeling lighter while you're left feeling confused, drained, and guilty for something that was never yours to carry. Here's the part most people miss. You can't heal someone else's insecurity by sacrificing your peace. You can't love someone so much that their self-hate disappears. You can't prove your loyalty enough to fix their trust issues. And you can't keep letting people dump their emotional garbage into your life just because you understand them. Empathy is a gift, but without boundaries, it becomes a curse. So when someone projects their pain onto you, instead of reacting, start observing. Tell yourself, this isn't about me, because it's not. The way people treat you says more about what's happening inside them than it does about your worth. You are not responsible for someone else's emotional immaturity.
You are not required to absorb their anger, their insecurity, or their pain. You can be kind without being a container. You can be compassionate without being a target. The moment you stop taking things personally, you become free. Free from guilt that isn't yours. Free from battles that aren't yours to fight. And free from the emotional manipulation of people who are just trying to escape their own reflection. Remember this, you can understand someone's story without letting it rewrite your own. You can see their pain and still walk away. That's not cruelty, that's self-respect. And ironically, the more peace you protect within yourself, the more those same people are forced to face what they were running from. Your calm becomes their mirror. Your strength becomes their discomfort. And sometimes, your silence is the only truth they can't avoid.
Reason number 7. Because you let them. There comes a point in every person's life when they realize this difficult truth. People can only push you as far as you allow them to. It's a bitter truth to swallow, not because it's harsh, but because it's honest. You see, the boundaries we set, or fail to set, become silent permissions. Every time you stay quiet when someone crosses a line, every time you excuse someone's disrespect because they didn't mean it, every time you choose peace over confrontation, you teach them how to treat you. And people learn fast. They learn that you'll forgive them easily. They learn that you'll always come back. They learn that your kindness is unconditional. And they take advantage of it not because they're all evil, but because human nature seeks the path of least resistance. We're wired to test limits, like children do. And when we find someone who never says enough, we keep pushing, consciously or not. So if people keep pushing your limits, maybe it's not because they're stronger, maybe it's because you've trained them to believe you won't push back. Let me give you a story. A young man once came to his mentor and said, "People keep using me. They take my kindness for weakness." The mentor poured tea into the student's cup, and he kept pouring and pouring until the cup overflowed and spilled all over the table. The student shouted, "Stop! It's full!" The mentor smiled and said, "Yes, and so are you. You've let too many people pour into your life without ever saying, 'That's enough,' and now you're drowning in what you allowed." Silence. The student understood. Boundaries aren't walls, they're filters. They don't keep love out, they keep self-destruction out. Because when you have no boundaries, love turns into control, kindness turns into exploitation, and your peace becomes public property. It's not selfish to say no. It's not cruel to walk away. It's not arrogant to protect your energy. It's wise, it's mature, it's necessary. And sometimes the reason people keep testing you is because they've never seen you enforce a limit. The first time you do, they'll be shocked. They might get angry. They might call you different or cold. But that's because they're no longer benefiting from your silence. They'll test you again, just to see if you mean it this time. And when you stand firm, something incredible happens. They stop pushing. Because they finally meet the version of you that values peace over people-pleasing. They meet the version of you that understands. You can love people and still not tolerate their disrespect. You can forgive them and still never let them close again. You can care without being controlled. Here's the truth you need to remember. Every boundary you build is a lesson you teach. And the people who truly love you will learn. The ones who don't will leave. Let them. Because peace isn't about keeping everyone around. It's about keeping yourself intact. The moment you stop letting people push your limits, you stop living reactively and start living intentionally. You stop being a victim of people's behavior and become the author of your own response. You begin to realize that saying no is not rejection, it's direction. It's you choosing where your energy flows. And when you finally take that power back, everything changes. People will treat you differently.
You'll speak differently. You'll walk differently because your soul will know that you are no longer at the mercy of anyone else's approval. The only person who decides your worth is you. So if you've been feeling drained, disrespected, or invisible, this is your reminder. It's time to stop letting people push your limits. Not out of anger, not out of revenge, but out of love for yourself. Because self-respect isn't built in one moment of defiance. It's built in every quiet decision to no longer tolerate what hurts your peace. So stand up, draw your line, and when they test it, don't flinch. Your silence was once your weakness, but now it's your power.
If this message spoke to you, remember, awareness is the first step toward freedom. Start observing who drains you. Start protecting what matters. And most importantly, start choosing yourself unapologetically. Because the moment you do, you'll realize you were never too much. You were just giving too much to people who deserved less. Now, if you found peace or strength in this message, don't keep it to yourself. Someone you know is fighting the same battle silently. Share this video with them. It might be the reminder they desperately need tonight. And if you want to keep growing with me, learning the psychology of self-respect, emotional control, and Stoic wisdom, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. This is your moment to take your power back. And remember, you teach people how to treat you by how you treat yourself.